Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Marianne Allen and I'm here today to talk about a pretty serious issue that concerns me. And I'm sure it concerns a lot of you who are watching this video. So if you clicked on this video, that means you've probably heard about this situation and you're curious about what's really going on, and you kind of want to know like how to move forward with it. So I have been hearing about this refugee situation in Ghana, Liberian refugee situation in Ghana, and the camp that they were put in while Liberia experienced instability. Like I said, I've heard a lot of different stories surrounding this, especially when it comes to those Liberians who lived on the camp relocating back to Liberia. And there were some times where I was biased, either for or against, but this morning I watched a video that had me in tears. Like I was pretty bummed by it, and I decided I was going to talk about this. I was going to make a video about it. Maybe I don't want to be too emotional about it. I just wanted to be straightforward and gather the information that I needed to get to inform myself so that I don't go on feeling this way. So if you do not know, I relocated to Ghana about 3 months ago as a transitional process to permanently move to Liberia, my home country. So if you're interested in other contents concerning my relocation process, make sure you watch other videos on my channel, hit the subscribe button and come again. I would like you guys to share this video and comment below what you think about this topic, or what you think about what's currently going on. I want you all to be respectful to each other's opinions, and let's have a constructive discussion, so that some of those misconceptions can be cleared and we can all move forward. So this morning I watched a video of the press interviewing some Liberians on the camp.
One that they treat you like a foreigner. Some of them appreciate you, some of them don't appreciate you.
Sometimes to the border, immigration is asking you. Sometimes immigration will ask you, when are you going back to your country? Even when you show them resident that you are here.
They have all that, you gave it out that you can go. Because if you can't give it, we'll stay here in the nose and we'll not leave. And even they break their houses, we'll still be there. When we leave there, the UN will come for us and we can.
I will not move.
You're saying you're not going to move?
I will not move because Ghana Refugee Board, Ghana government, Ghana UNHCR have now applied a three-dribble solution.
I didn't pack anything. It's there. If they want to come and break their house of things, let them break it. We will go and sleep in the street. Maybe that's what they want.
Of Ghanaians, Liberians, Ivorians, all of us, we are all one. So they should see about us.
Are you going to move from here?
No, when they say we should move from there, UN should come and decide. We are living with UN people here. You understand?
If they like today, they bring entire Ghana to come to the camp, then we'll stay here. It won't for anything. We just look at you. If you want to do, but what is that? Tell your government to open border, we'll go back to our country.
But even if you break the house today, I will stay here today.
We'll stay right here.
I have nowhere to go. If you see anyone parking that way, they are Ghanaians.
While few of them have packed out, others gathered at the community center to demand adequate relocation package.
Here is not in vain. I came here as a refugee. I never came here to hustle. I never came here to cause trouble.
The assembly says its work is to inform the residents of the impending demolition.
Budubram has become so notoriously popular for criminal activities. A number of robbers are often chased to that place for arrests and those things. I hope you have not also lost sight of the fact that it was just Budubram, the same Budubram that 2 able-bodied policemen were gunned down one hot afternoon, and several of them. So the security matter challenge is one. But that aside, the place itself has outlived its usefulness. By that I mean it has ceased to be a camp since 2010.
A date for the demolition is yet to be fixed. For Joy News, Joseph Aka.
When I went to Ghana 3 months ago, I know someone on the camp. He told me about the timeline that they had given Liberians to vacate the camp, that the government wanted to use the land. So when I watched this video this morning, I saw my Liberian people in a desperate situation. Some people might say they are feeling a little more entitled. Other people might say they are helpless, and the government is cruel for kicking them out. Some people might say, like, what are they doing there all this time? They should go home. So there have been different thoughts about this whole situation. I often hear Ghanaians say Ghanaians and Liberians are the same. And there are some people who would say all West Africans are the same people that just migrated to different parts. Heard a lot of different theories about this, but you Ghanaians do believe that Liberians are Ghanaians, and I've heard that a lot. But now I'm kind of thinking, if this is what you say, and I look at the situation on the Liberian refugee camp, is it really true? Is this true to everyone? Is this true to the government, or is it just true to the people? What are Ghanaian citizens doing about this? How do people really feel about Liberians who have lived in Ghana over 2 decades be treated in this manner, or be placed in this predicament or this situation? So without being biased in any way, I decided to go and do my own research and get some information about this situation. Like, because somewhere in my head, okay, let's be honest. So 1 minute I'll be like, oh my gosh, this sucks. Like, why would Ghanaians, or why would the Ghana government want to do this? And then the next minute I'm like, really, Liberians, like, you guys have been here over 20 years. You should at least want to go back to your country. And so even me personally, I've had different feelings about this situation. So I decided to do some research before coming on here and talking about what really is happening, because I was curious. Is it just that people don't want to go back home? Is it that the government didn't do what they were supposed to do? Isn't there an international community that's usually involved? Like, what's really going on, you know? So what I really found out about the whole situation is that first, we want to be grateful to the Ghanaians and the government for allowing Liberians to seek refuge and to take refuge in their country during the time of our civil crisis. So Liberians have lived in Ghana for decades, in this particular area that was given to them as their refugee camp. Many of the Liberians here in the US once lived on that camp, and they were able to get resettled to the United States. Some people went there and didn't have any family members here to really push their cause to get resettled here, so they just stay there. And there are a lot of other reasons why people just stay there, and I'll talk a little bit about those. But in 2004, UNHCR decided that Liberia was stable, there was no more crisis, so they were going to terminate the refugee status of Liberians in countries that they were seeking refuge. So it wasn't just Ghana, it was Ivory Coast, it was Guinea, Sierra Leone. So there were Liberians were pretty scattered in the West African countries. Now, as a means of this process, there were 3 different pathways that were given to Liberians living in all of these countries, but I'm specifically going to talk about Ghana. So the 3 processes or pathways that were presented to them: 1, voluntary return to your country, voluntary repatriation back to Liberia. Number 2, integration into Ghana's local society, so staying in Ghana. And the third thing was resettlement, so resettlement into another country other than Liberia or Ghana. And this would only happen especially for some of those people who believe that if they were to return to Liberia, they would be prosecuted, or something would go wrong. So there was that option. Now let's talk about the first option. The first option was voluntary repatriation back to Liberia. What had happened, the Ghana government gave Liberians, so to kind of get this process going, they provided a window of voluntary repatriation where they were giving Liberians who signed up $325 US dollars to go back before the deadline. So UNHCR had given a deadline of that status being dropped as refugee, and that was June 30th of 2012. So by June 30th of 2012, Liberians living in Ghana as refugees would no longer be considered refugees, and if they didn't opt for any of the 3 processes, they would be considered illegal residents in Ghana. Now, Ghana did not wait for the June 30th. They talked to Liberians and gave them the option of voluntarily leaving prior to that June 30th and be given this stipend to go back to Liberia. Of the many Liberians that lived in Ghana on the refugee camp at the time, this article that I read from UNHCR actually said that 450 Liberians signed up for that pre-repatriation before the deadline. And because there weren't a lot of people who had signed up for that pre-repatriation, Ghana got a little concerned about really getting people out of there within a timely manner. Now when this status has dropped, what then becomes of the people who are left behind? So Ghana and the ECOWAS community decided to give them, Liberians, an extension of up to December 1st of 2012 to actually get people who wanted to repatriate or those who wanted to integrate into Ghana society. Now, just stepping back a little bit, about 4,700 Liberians chose to be repatriated back to Liberia. So it's not that Liberians just didn't move or they didn't go anywhere, they just sat there. So about 4,700 people decided, according to this article, this got repatriated back to Liberia, I guess through the formal process. There were some people who family members just pretty much paid their way and they went back to Liberia. So that number would reflect those who formally registered for that service or that benefit. Now, the second option, which was integration into the Ghana society, was also thrown out there. There were additional people who decided to integrate into Ghana society, decided not to go back to Liberia, and they would just stay in Ghana because they've lived almost all of their lives in Ghana, and that's what they knew as home. Now, Ghanaians, or the Ghana government, then decided of the people who chose to be integrated into Ghana society, they would go through a screening and selection process. So it wasn't everyone that chose to stay in Ghana actually got granted the documents that they needed to stay in Ghana. And at first thought, you might think, how do you tell people to choose to stay and then you still pick among them, like, and say you're not qualified to stay or you're qualified to stay? But then if you take a keen look at this issue, a lot of countries do that. Even the US do that. When the US opens a pathway to permanent residency or citizenship, they usually screen and select. They don't just pick anyone that's been in the US under that status. They give you criteria. You would, and most times countries would do that because they're trying to select people who will add value to their economy, to their society, and not just be a burden on the society or cause harm and damage. So you would see in the US, they would say you shouldn't have any moral incidences of more than 2 counts, or don't have a felony, you know, those little things. And so Ghana did that, and not everyone were chosen. So about another 4,000 got accepted and given documents. The documents that were given were not Ghanaian passport. The documents that were given was Liberian passport, along with a 2-year permanent residency to live and work in Ghana. Okay, there are a series of articles that have analyzed those who decided to stay in Ghana, their living standard, and the outcome of that pathway that they have taken. And these articles are saying that it has not made any difference for Liberians who decided to get papers and stay in Ghana, unless you have some kind of formal higher education that is more specific, or a specialty or something that, you know, you're needed for. It's pretty difficult finding jobs as Liberians in Ghana. And it's not only because of discrimination, which is another factor, but also because the unemployment rate is pretty high too in Ghana. There are lots of Ghanaians, locals, who are highly trained and qualified, went to school, got the degree and everything, and they still don't have a job. So there's a gap. And I mean, they won't pick someone who doesn't have the qualification, or someone who, a Liberian, over a Ghanaian who has all of the qualifications. So there are a lot of disparities within just that situation. And the quality of life for those Liberians who even got the paper is pretty low. And I was able to see that when I was in Ghana. My heart broke when I saw Liberians in Accra on the streets begging. Like, seriously, it was so embarrassing. It's almost like they saw you like a godsend when they heard your accent. I mean, people will run behind us and hold us and not let go. Like, I came here to look for work. There's a warehouse job that I'm working at, but transportation is hard to go back to the camp, and I've been sleeping on the streets for 3 days. Can you please help me? I have not eaten all day. Give me something to eat, or pay my way to go back to the camp. We had those incidences so many times in the Osu area, and I mean, I won't dispute the fact that there are some who are there and that's kind of their hustle. You hear that story all the time. But there are others who are genuinely just living in extreme poverty and trying to make something of themselves, but they're just shut out. Like, it's just not happening. Another barrier for those who decided to stay in Ghana is language barrier. And I know the first time I thought about that, I was like, I mean, there are people who, how do you live in a country for over 20 years and don't know how to speak the language? And I did meet people from the camp who, in Accra, who have been in Ghana over 2 decades and don't know how to speak the language. Some people might say they don't have to, they don't need to. But if you're deciding to integrate into a society, there are things that you need to look at. If that is a major language and you already know that you're favored when you speak the language, you might as well just learn the language, you know? And that is not unique to just Liberians. It's not that Liberians are just being lazy. I've seen that with other nationalities too, even here in the US. I have worked with immigrants in the US from different countries who have lived here many years, like decades, and they've just been comfortable working in the hotels, because they're not required to speak English, like cleaning in the hotel, or laundry in the hotel, and they never really got pushed to learn the English because it was never required of them. But then you can't help but wonder, how do you live in a place like the US where everything you do, you have to at least know how to read and write and speak English? For that long, you should have at least tried or integrated somehow to make life easier. So we still have to hold people accountable for choices that they make. So I couldn't help but wonder. And today, those choices of not intentionally being a part of the society is suffering Liberians who decided to stay in Liberia. There are many of them who have given up. They think that even with the residence permit or the work authorization, they would never find a job to do in Ghana, because they don't have what Ghanaians are looking for, or Ghanaians just prefer Ghanaians over Liberians, even if you've been there a long time. Is that true? I don't know. Now, the third option that was given to Liberians was resettlement. UNHCR said that option didn't seem possible at all, or was extremely slow in being implemented, because resettlement depends on the third-party country that you're going to. So if you decide to go to Nigeria needs to be able to accept you to be resettled in their country. Like the US, you can't just say, I want to resettle, I choose the US, so take me to the US. No, the country has to be offering resettlement, and give you that, provide you the benefits of resettling in their country. So the based on my research, I didn't find anything that talked about what was done for those people who decided to be resettled, or how many of the people in Liberians refugee in Ghana decided to be resettled. So we don't know. We don't know if people decided to be resettled and they're waiting to be resettled, and nothing has been done, or nobody chose that option. We don't know what really it is. Now, during the repatriation phase in that 2012, Madam Salif was the president of Liberia, and she encouraged Liberians to come back. She provided different resources for those who would go back, such as $300 for adults, for each adult, and $200 for each child when you get back to Liberia, as a means of getting you started, just to get you doing something, whether you wanted to do business or send your kids to school, or you could do something with that. And a lot of people took on that grant and benefit and went back to Liberia. Now, what puzzled me is 2012 December 1st was a long time ago, a really long time ago. 9 years later, there are people still occupying the camp, the refugee camp in Ghana. There are Liberians, and there are not just Liberians on the camp anymore. A lot of people have gone there because you kind of find extremely cheap houses, or free living. So there are a lot of Nigerian migrants, Togolese migrants. There are other migrants that have moved there, and is a mixture of people. Now, what puzzles me, like I said, is what happened from 2012 to 2021. Why did they stay this long? Was there anything put in place that allowed them to stay this long? Was the Ghanaian government just being gracious? Was there some kind of act that got implemented for them to stay? Did Ghana know that maybe they had not put things in place for these people, so they were just gonna allow it? And what triggered the abrupt announcement of demolition? So right before I left Ghana in August, this news was announced to the public, and they had given them up till this time, the end of September, to get out. And you know, us Liberians, we were like, yeah, we've heard that before. It's not gonna happen and all of that. But this time, it seemed like Ghanaian government is... So I had to change my location because my battery died. And now I have it on charge while I continue this talk. So it seems like the Ghanaian government is pretty serious this time about vacating the land, Liberians vacating their land for them to use it for other purposes. Now I've seen a lot of different comments on social media about this. People are saying, is that the only land they have in Ghana? Why, you know, and there are a lot of like anger and lashing and pity and different things surrounding this. But it seemed that a lot of people who are talking on social media doesn't really understand what is really going on here. Like, how did we get to this point where we are being thrown out? We are being seen as unwanted in a certain place. It's a pretty tough feeling to experience, feeling unwanted. And even if you decide to stay, feeling left out. It's a pretty hard feeling to have. And even for me, who chose to go to Ghana, knowing my financial situation and everything, it's heartbreaking for me to see my people suffer the way they are suffering in Ghana. Like I said, I saw a lot of Liberians living deplorable lives. There are lots of prostitutes, Liberian young women, beautiful, who are prostitutes in Ghana, and it's so visible. It's heartbreaking. And then there are the guys who are begging on the streets. And I wonder, I had planned to go to the camp, but didn't make it there until I left to visit the US. And I was hoping when I got back, I was gonna go there and do a video where I can actually talk to people who live on the camp, because what I saw in Accra, from people who either lived on the camp and came down or moved away from the camp, it's pretty tough for Liberians over there. And I remember saying to myself, they should just, if I'm gonna suffer like this in another country, I might as well just go to my own country. I would rather sell potato leaves or cassava leaves in my own country to survive than like really, really struggle, especially if I have that choice of going back. So it's a pretty complex situation. Now, what's left on my mind at this moment is, who are the people in Ghana? Who are the Liberian refugees that are left on the refugee camp? Let's think about that for a second. If people repatriated back to Liberia, chose option 1, and there were some who integrated into Ghana society, and there were some, I would assume, who chose resettlement options, and who are those on the camp? Are they the ones who chose the resettlement options and they're waiting to be resettled? Are they people who decided to integrate into Ghana society, but because they were not selected to be given paper, went back to the camp? Are they people who decided to integrate into Ghana society and were given papers, but because of lack of jobs and the cost of living in Accra, were not able to live in other parts of Ghana and had to go back to the camp? Because that's another issue that was pointed out, because the Puduburan camp is pretty isolated from developed cities. So in order to get a job, now if you've been living in an area where you're paying little of nothing or you're not paying any money at all, and all of a sudden you're given this document that is supposed to enable you to work, but you can't find the job around the area that you live and you have to travel down to the city. Now, you can't be going back and forth. Transportation, you don't have that. You can't sustain that way, yourself that way. So you may have to relocate down to the city so that you can work. Living in a city comes with added cost for your children and yourself. And that means, and we all know, Africa, the wages in Africa is pretty low, like minimum wage, pretty much. They're paying people over there. So if you are working and getting paid for little of nothing, but you have all these really high expenses, how do you balance it out? It's not sustainable. So then a lot of people with those papers just end up going back to the comfort that they had, not because they're choosing to, it's just because economic situation leaves them with no choice. So there are a lot of different situations that have happened that still have people left on the camp. Now, if you seen in the video, there are Liberians that are saying, I swear, if you bring a bus here right now, open the border and put us on that bus, we will go back to our country. Like, they're saying that they're willing to leave, but there has been nothing done to actually assist them to leave. So it's a rather complex situation. So then, is the government at fault? Were there things put in place on paper that wasn't actually manifested in real life? Were there pathways that were given that were not reliable, that were not effective, and nothing was done past that? Because integration takes a lot for any group of people. There are a lot of things that needs to be placed into successfully integrating a group of people into a society to make them self-sufficient. And maybe there wasn't much done for those people who, quote unquote, said they were gonna be integrated into the society. So who are those people on the camp that are being asked to leave, that are being told that if they do not leave, their homes will be broken down? Meanwhile, the land borders in Ghana are closed. And also, where does UNHCR come into this whole situation? Because they were the ones who initiated this. They were the ones who terminated the status and decided to work with the countries to put things in place. So where do they come in all of this? And how do they respond to this embarrassing situation? Actually, is so embarrassing and heartbroken. And more importantly, where does our government in Liberia stand in all of this? I mean, it really broke my heart. Like, I understand all the different situations surrounding this, but as a country, your pride is your people, you know? And to see them beg in another man's land for a place to live, a place to stay, a roof over their heads. They have children, and they're pretty much treated as outcasts now because they're unwanted. And we need to get a statement from the government. Like, we need something happening. The president, as I learned, did ask for an extension up to December 1st. We're not sure if that extension was granted or not. So there are things still being worked out. And I think the deadline for vacating the land was the end of September, the last day of September. So the people are pretty serious about this. So unless the government of Liberia can really do something about it, or UN can step in and have something done, we have been disgraced, pretty much. Liberians have been disgraced, and it's an ugly feeling. Now Liberians are angry. Liberians all over on social media, they are angry because somehow they only see the videos that are going around about the Liberians being in tears and really like pouring their hearts out there and saying nothing is being done for them. However, we know there were a couple of things that were done, but even with those things that were done, there are gaps still in it. and they haven't been proven to be sustainable. So there has to be more. But I have seen on social media, Liberians are saying Ghanaians are living in Liberia comfortably. We are good to them. They go to work in our economy. Meanwhile, we're being treated this way in Ghana. There were other people who said things to incite violence against Ghanaians living in Liberia and all of that. And all of those things are unnecessary. And I think it's due to lack of knowledge. It's just ignorance. So I would recommend or encourage you to share the video to Liberians and Ghanaians and people who are pretty angry about the situation, to get a good understanding of kind of the process of how we got here. There are still holes in the story, like I said. What happened from 2012 to now? I didn't find anything about what really happened, what was granted that made them stay this long, and what was done in the process. Now, Liberians, we tend to be pretty complacent too. So there were a lot of things that should have been done on our part that we didn't do. The government as a whole, but the people themselves who lived in Ghana as refugees all these many years. I think there were things that should have been done that were not done. And we will have to hold them accountable as well. If you ask a country to host you for a time frame, when that time frame is over, they have the right to ask you to leave. Even in the US, that's done. So does Ghana have the right to ask us to leave? Yes, they do. Is Ghana responsible to facilitate our repatriation process? Yes and no. I'm sure there was some agreement when this whole thing started, but more so, I would say the international community and Liberia should be on the forefront of this situation. So it's really hard to say who's at fault here, but there are issues that need to be addressed. There are more things that need to be done for these people to really get them to live a decent lives, and get them either back to their country or live life with dignity in Ghana. Let me hear your thoughts about this. What do you think about this situation, and how can we handle it? How can we move forward? Like I said, I'm pretty embarrassed about what's going on. My heart goes out to my people. And if somebody can fill in the holes in this story, go right ahead. But I will leave the links down to the articles that I came across. And if you want to read more in detail, you can do that. If you have not subscribed, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I don't always talk about politics. Everything is political. I do cover my relocation process and Liberia, contents on Liberia. So leave a comment, share the video, subscribe, and I'll see you again in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.